Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Jessica Reilly of the Pope Memorial Frontier Animal Society. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thanks, Scott.
So we've been working for a few weeks to get you on the show, but for a bit it looked like the Grim Reaper wanted you. I guess you had the flu or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, the whole staff here, volunteers included, we had a whole, we'll call it a mini plague in here. I think a lot of the Northeast Kingdoms, so you're safe because you're not here right now, Scott. But yeah, it worked its way through, and we had like flu, and then it turned into a sinus infection, and now I'm just getting better. Finally,
Right.
I can speak.
So, most people, well, many people know you, but not in that role you're currently in. For many years, you were at the now closed Derby Pond Animal Clinic, and then for several more years over at the Animal Doctor in Newport Center. So, but you're here to talk about this new role. And what is your role?
Yeah, so I guess to back up, you are correct. So I was at Derby Pond Animal Hospital for 20 years. Um, I began at VTC in Randolph, and I went there to become a vet tech. So I worked at Derby Pond for 20 years, and then decided to explore more after Dr. Sanford sold the practice. There wasn't as much surgeries going on, which really intrigued me. So I went over to Dr. Hunter's, Dr. Selena Hunter in Newport Center, and I worked as the animal doctor there for 5 years. And I had many Derby Ponder people follow me. I had Jessica only appointments. People would come from all over to still come see me there, which was wonderful. Um, and then after almost 27 years of being a vet tech, which generally speaking, a vet tech, they generally, it's a very physical, it's mentally challenging. There's a lot of different things to it, as you can imagine. An average vet tech actually stays in the field anywhere from 5 to 7 years. 27 is kind of unheard of. I guess I'm abnormal to
Right.
be in it this long, but I do have the love for animals. And I also had the love for surgery. So then, I don't know, you could call it a midlife crisis, where I just wanted to do something else. I did try out the North Country Hospital. For just a couple of months, I went in and I learned to be a scrub tech. And I was more so thinking that I was going to go in and be scrubbed up and just assist with the surgeries, but there was a lot more to it. It was still, myself seeing the clients of almost 30 years coming in and me all scrubbed up, of course, and them recognizing me and saying, "Don't you work on my dog or my cat?" And wondering why I was with them in the OR, which was kind of comical. And, over the years, with the animal world as well, there's a lot of upsetting things, and you don't always have the puppy and the kitten events. Same with the human world. You do unfortunately have the life-threatening part of it, and the people who diagnosed with the bad things. So I just decided, it was not, the human world was not for me. So then, therefore, I was like, well, I guess what am I going to be when I grow up type thing. I did a little bit on my own because I have all the experience and whatnot. I did some kind of Jessica only appointments at home for a little bit and I figured out what I wanted to do. And I was approached by the shelter. And, the shelter was going through some different changes here and they didn't have a manager. And, Frontier Animal Society here, it stems back from many, many years ago. It actually came into play with the Canadian Humane Society. So over in Ogden, it's right over the border. Um, that that actual Frontier Animal Society began in 1986. Joyce Ducker, which I had the pleasure of working with through Derby Pond, we saw all of their animals there because we were the closest vet.
Right.
She began it, and then basically here we didn't have anything. Um, so, you know, people would have, stray cats, as we all probably have helped with in our lifetime, the dog that was hit by a car, all these things. There was area people and volunteers that actually got together and they would bring them to the area vets. Um, Back then, there was quite a few more area vets. The unfortunate lately, we do have some different problems here. It's a big thing going on right now. We have a vet shortage and a vet tech shortage. Um, it's a really, really hard field. There's a lot to it. You figure when in human medicine, you go into the practice of it's men and women, and the different body parts. You figure about a veterinarian, I've worked with at Derby Pond, especially worked with large animal and small animal vets. How many different species of animals and different problematic things that they have to learn. I mean, it's amazing the different things, and even right down to drawing blood. I mean, humans, as you know, you can see their veins. Animals, I mean, horses, usually go for the jugular and the neck. I mean, there's all different things. Dogs and cats, we have poodles that have, thick fur, and you have to shave the fur, and just all different things. We can't tell them, okay, can you put your arm out because we're going to draw blood now. So there's just a lot to it. So anyway, uh short version is, all these people around in the area. One of them being Ann Ford was a big one, and she is still in the area, and I guarantee she still has many, many pets at her house. Linda Graham Barber was another one. They kind of together out of Ann's house in, I believe it was Sutton, began this Frontier Animal Society. And Betsy Hampton, who, believe it or not, God love Betsy, she is still on the board. She has been a part of this Humane Society for over 30 years of helping these animals. And she, I don't know, Scott, if you remember, but she had the store Sweet Adeline's.
Sure I do, yeah.
And people would bring in stray cats to her, and she would, go from there. They did it all on, you know, volunteers and, selling wreaths and fundraisers. And it's a nonprofit, and it still is a nonprofit. There's no state or federal funding here. We do it all on donations of the community and fundraisers.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's amazing to still think that this place is going. I mean, we all are pet lovers. I mean, for the most part, nobody wants to see an animal suffer and whatnot. All the area vets do discounts for us. They all work with us and even help with us to find homes and so on and so forth. Um, Way back when, also another big part of this organization, Elizabeth Brown Humane Society, there was a bunch of volunteers from there they would transport and so on and so forth. Then in 2003, Lyman Pope, he was the one that stepped in. He was a self-made man, and he gave a good amount of money to Frontier Animal Society. All he asked was if we could please change the name to Pope Memorial Frontier Animal Shelter. And that's when they built this lovely shelter that I am in right now, that's been helping the Essex and Orleans counties for that many years. So over 30 years now.
Right. You know,
So,
one thing I often chuckle about when people say, well, we have to pay for, they're actually surprised that that you don't just give animals away if you're looking for homes. Well, I know there's a series of factors why you don't, but for the price you actually charge for spayed and or well, spayed and or neutered animal.
$350 plus. You know, this is a mature spay. I mean, these take time. This is a big surgery. I mean, a female human that goes in, I mean, they're kind of on bed rest for a couple weeks. I mean, this is a big surgery. You know, we have IVs, we have blood work. Usually we do what's called a 40X. It's a heartworm and does all the tick panels. I mean, there's all these things to it. There's boosters, there's dewormer, there's flea and tick, there's heartworm prevention. I mean, we do it all. At least now with myself being here, they never in the past, as I was saying, had an actual vet tech. So now I can come in and I have a, let's say, a stray cat intake. Once the cat kind of desensitizes and I, can touch it and, it's warming up to me, then, the staff here have trained to restrain. And I can draw blood and I start out with what's called the combo test. I'm sure you've heard of leukemia or feline
Oh, yeah.
ALS, those things we test for right off the bat. I go ahead and I deworm it. I give it flea medicine. Once the kitty's been here a little bit, I can now do a fecal, make sure there's no worms, do all those things. I can do tempers here. Um, Another really nice part of, again, us all working together in the community and myself having all these connections. Again, I'll bring myself back to Derby Pond. And, I half of my life I spent there. I feel like I grew up there. All of my colleagues, some of these people are like family to me. Dr. Nelson, she was one of the first veterinarians to work with Dr. Sanford that began Derby Pond. I worked with her for 15 years there. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was doing a surgery with her when 9/11 happened. So part of these um, people, that all these colleagues, I all have like a little connection with. Tori and Andrea, both of her vet techs there. I mean, they were like families. Tori and I were together for 17 years there. We still have so many memories and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can just message them and say, hey, when can I get this dog in? Can you help me? And everybody's been super. The Newport vet, which was Dr. Starr's old office.
Right.
When I was in high school, I actually did the Career Center program called Health Careers.
Right.
And that is an exceptional program where it actually allowed me to go shadow. And I went there for a 2-week program called the co-op program. And I got to shadow Dr. Starr doing, spays, neuters, and whatever. And it's a great program because some people, if they see blood, they're done. They're not going to be able to do it. Or an animal euthanized, they're like, no, this isn't for me. Yes, I love animals, but I can't do this. So the short version of all this, now Dr. Haley Gentile owns it, and Dr. Judy works there too. I worked with both of them at Derby Pond. And then Dr. Kathy St. Clair, now Gray, she actually, amazingly enough, I worked with her as her personal technician at Derby Pond for 18 years. She now is the one that runs the Career Center. So
Mm.
she is helping all these students figure out what they want to be in the health careers. And now I have her coming every 2 weeks, and she brings her students here. And by law, a veterinarian can only do a rabies shot. So she does free exams for the shelter and she'll do the rabies shots. I'm allowed to do distemper and other vaccine, but by law, the rabies has to be done by a veterinarian. So the shelter saves lots and lots of money, again, from one of these wonderful veterinarian colleagues. And then amazingly enough, and I know that you go to Dr. Hunter's, all the wonderful things that I learned there. And I mean, she works with the shelter, does a great deal for all of us. She's kind of our vet to go to.
Right.
If I have a problem, she's the one that I can get right in, and she helps me above and beyond with her big heart anyway. And all of her staff as well, worked with many of them at Derby Pond. And Connie, one of her technicians, she's the one that does the Feline and Friends you may or may not have heard of. We're also kind of affiliated. We help them they do the spay and neuters and release of feral cats. So, it really helps with the pet population. But people really still, believe it or not, they really, everybody has to be spayed and neutered because our shelter, when I got here back in September, we had 75 cats. That was well over capacity. Dr. Hunter does a huge thing, and Connie Nagg's actually one of our vet techs. There was a whole need of all these barns and feral cats. Now, as well as I do, um, if you've ever been near a feral cat or even a semi-feral cat, that is not a cat that I'm gonna have, the community come in and adopt.
Right.
We need, so they need to be usually outdoor kitties. You know, I'm sure you see many of the posts where, um, we tell you exactly what to do. So they have warm shelter and food and water. In the winter, they actually won't move them. They have to have, usually 50 and above, like warmer weather. Um, but yeah, anyway, Dr. Hunter does do a bunch of really nice things. And they also work Feline and Friends with Sarah White, Dr. Sarah White. Um, she, if you've heard of the Feline and Friends, they do a low cost spay and neuter program. So right now they do it usually about once a month. They'll do it at like the Barton Community Center. There's all different places that they do. So anybody in the community, believe it or not, for $65, you can have your cat spayed or neutered. And they do a dose of revolution, which is a flea preventative slash deworm, and rabies and distemper, which is huge. We do have some different ones. Everybody always calls here to ask. There's one in Littleton. There's called a Second Chance. That one actually helps with dogs. Also everybody here, Scott, I believe, and Todd both have dogs, and we all license our dogs. When your town asks you to take that rabies portion, it's the rabies, what do you call it? Dues or whatever that you pay once a year in March, usually. So actually, that money goes to a program in Vermont called VSNP. And VSNP is a Vermont incentive spay neuter program. And that those dues go to, for $27, anybody with low income, they can bring their animal in and have it spayed, neutered, and up to date on vaccines. It's an amazing program. The area vet, Dr. Hunter does it at the animal doctor, and I know that Nelson's does it in Newport, and Kingdom Animal Hospital, also in St. Johnsbury. If you're familiar again with Derby Pond, everybody knew Dr. Bill, and some of the staff there. They went to the St. J Animal Hospital when Derby Pond went out, type thing.
The one thing I've noticed over the years, it was within the veterinarian community, and it's highlighting it more as you speak, is it's the same thing as what happened in the human medical community. There was a time when you went to the vets, it wasn't too many decades ago, maybe 30 years ago, you were probably going to be looking at a man, as in the veterinarians were mostly men, as were the doctors. Up until like the doctors, I think it really started to really change 1970s and early 80s. And if I think about like when I was growing up, we went to Dr. Vburst for a veterinarian, where the Derby Line Village Inn is today. And and then Dr. Starr, and now most of the vets seem to be women.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, I've noticed. So at Derby Pond, believe it or not, when I worked there, you have to understand that that was a mixed animal practice, which was amazing to be able to work at because there was the large and large and small animal aspect of it. So a lot of times, you're right. It was usually when I first began, it was a male vet who was the large animal doctor. They'd go out on the road and they do calvings and herd checks and the down cow and the DA surgeries and, the goat that had the broken leg or whatever, whatever needed to be. Um, so then, therefore, they would come in off the road in the afternoon. They change their coveralls, they put on their clothes, and they go in and do appointments. And these people, these veterinarians, I mean, they would work all day long, and then therefore one of them would be on call that night too. So that
I understand from listening to Dr. Hunter, now Dr. Nelson, one time she went out and brought herself home a stray, and she's still married to him today. Richard, Nelson Farms,
that's right.
so yeah, she found herself a stray, and many years later, two adult kids later, she's still married to the man she met on the job.
That's right. And she taught him so many things. I know he does so many things at the farm with all of her wonderful knowledge over the years. So I'm sure that that's been an asset definitely to that farm. But yeah, absolutely. All these people, just what a great community. We all kind of work together. But you know, definitely these vets, everybody has to understand they are tired. Dr. Judy Robitel, she just barely retired. Derby Pond um, is now done. So unfortunately, we have a huge, huge shortage of vets, and they can't work 24 hours a day. People need to be patient. We do have Littleton, we do have Essex, and sometimes Lamoille Valley will take emergencies, but unfortunately, even for the shelter, it's a tough situation. Recently there's been a bunch of stuff online. I know that there was a dog, a puppy recently that unfortunately was having seizures, I read, and it was after 5 o'clock. And, again, these vets, they can't work 24 hours a day. They're going to burn out. So, unfortunately, by the time they got to the emergency vet, the poor pup was deceased. I mean, it's an awful, awful situation. So, it's something I know different people have wrote to. I know Tina Ellum was one of them. She wrote a big long thing asking, is there something we could do to get some of these vets in our area because some of our pets are dying. But these vets, they're doing an amazing job. They're going above and beyond and staying late at Dr. Hunter's many a nights. I would be there until 7, 8 o'clock. She'd still be pinning that cat's leg and getting it on her schedule and, getting that cat healthy and getting it adopted out. So, they work with us, and, I'm definitely asking the community doing this podcast. Frontier Animal Society, has been around for a long, long time, and we need donations. I'm starting up a calendar raffle this month, and I'm also doing another sweatshirt. I will be posting on our websites, but anything anybody can donate, and
Do they contact you or whoever they're supposed to contact?
yeah, so we have a PayPal account on our actual website. If anybody wants to do anything, we have a wish list, which is great. Our dogs and cats here, believe it or not, we had 75 cats. That's a lot of food to be going through. We feed the canned food in the morning, the dry in the afternoon, and same for these dogs. The dogs, I'm at capacity right now. I do not have any more room. Another one that I've been working with, and God love her, is Renee Falconer. She's the ACO. All of these strays, she took in 3 this week. I now took in 2 from her, and that's how we're at capacity. But I give her any food I can. She does it all on donations.
Right.
So, any help that we can get here, to keep getting all these animals homes, and it's a great thing for a person to come in and want a cat and the cat choosing them. That's one of the most special things that you can see.
So
Yeah.
5 more minutes left. What is the website?
It is, well, you can go right on the Pope Memorial Frontier Animal Society,
Right.
and yep, just go right. We have a website. Just Google that, and you go right on our website. and it will tell you, you know what, if you want a cat, you want a dog, then you fill in an application. If you want to donate, it's all right on there. The other thing is, like I said, our wish list. We have an Amazon, we have a Chewy. You know, you have extra $25 and you want to order some food. We write right on there what we need, and people order it, and it gets shipped here, and it's amazing, and we appreciate it more than you know. We could not do it without our community and our amazing volunteers. We have people coming in, doing the kitty feedings in the mornings, the litter boxes. You know, we have longtime volunteers here. Joanne Fideli comes in. She's been doing this for 30 years, like Betsy, and she comes in and she walks the dogs. You know, Jen Hamlet's another one. I see her twice a day because she comes in and she really cares about these animals. You know, some other long timers, Elma Marsh, you know, some of these people, Ruth Gessing, she's another one. Sherry Gerard, I mean, Sherry has been around forever, and Sherry is still taking in these kittens. She has three right now. She's bottle feeding them and acclimating them to humans and making them into these wonderful kittens to be adopted out. So, you know, I have so many people that help us. It's an amazing thing. It really is.
Well, we'll have to get you back on, maybe come spring. No, spring is right around the corner. You know, maybe later in the year when you have something going on. As for
Yep.
your two former patients, my golden
Yeah.
retrievers, they're 13. You know, they're winding down, but they're laying right here.
Oh,
And I, as you know, my home is still in Vermont. I still
right.
live there, but on the other hand, I also spend a few months each year in Michigan,
Hmm.
and we have vets in both places just in case, something comes up. And they have a nice vet here. They have a super vet there, Dr. Hunter, and so I'm just keeping them going.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for
Yeah.
all you do.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I would absolutely come on again.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.